Good morning, everybody. This is Kieran Karp from IMGS and Aditya Dote, who's our data engineer.
Good morning, everyone.
And working in the background this morning is Tanya, who's our marketing executive, who's going to be keeping an eye on the event. We're just about to get going. First thing to say is we do have a question panel. So if on the side of your GoToWebinar, you can actually submit questions during the webinar, and any questions you have, we will try and take at the end, and hopefully we can field them as best we can. So we're just 11 o'clock on the button, so we'll get underway and get started with our Talend Stitch Data Loadout webinar. So in today's world, becoming data-driven is not easy. The journey is fraught with roadblocks, and 69% of companies have failed to create a data-driven organization. 74% of organizations have 6 or more data integration tools, and 75% of time with data professionals is spent on tasks other than analysis. And actually, we're already seeing ourselves, and this is really happening a lot in Ireland, where a lot of organizations spend their time manipulating data at end of month or end of quarter to try and get reports or analysis done, and actually don't spend any of the time doing the analytic. And then 47% of data, enterprise data, is integrity issues, and it takes 10 times the cost to complete a unit of work if the underlying data is flawed. And 55% of companies' data is not accessible, so it's behind firewalls or stuck in silos or whatever. So we believe that data must be delivered fast to serve business and customer needs. So without speed, you can't meet the business needs. So 40% of CIOs are delivering results against the speed required. There is the cost of the shadow IT and risk, and there's a $1.5 to $1.8 trillion is the estimate cost of the annual shadow IT, where you're not taking advantage of self-service. And also then that leaves up with you have over 40% of unsatisfied customers, and 40% of people will leave a page if it takes longer than 3 seconds to load a page. So speed is critical to get a competitive advantage. Then the trust in data is essential for the right decisions and customer experience. Without trust, decisions will be based on the wrong data. Gartner estimate that $9.7 million is the cost of annual bad data. Regulatory violations, 24 million or 4% of annual revenue is going to be spent if you breach GDPR. And again, here in Ireland last week, the Data Protection Commissioners were bringing out a few cases against a few government agencies around data breaches that they've had. And then there is an amount of missed opportunities. 77% of companies believe their bottom line is affected by poor data. So what we see, we have a solution to these data access data to increase your time to insight. And that solution is based on our data intelligence platform. And it has 3 major components. The first is what we're going to be part of what we're talking about today is Talend. And Talend is our data integration, data management, and data governance platform. And I'll speak about it more in a second. And then we also provide a data warehouse in the cloud, and that's Snowflake. And our analytics and BI platform is Sisense. So just to mention Snowflake itself, Snowflake is the first data warehouse that was built for the cloud. So it's a complete SQL database. It requires zero management, so it's a database as a service. So it's up in the cloud, so you don't have to stand up any infrastructure, and you don't have to do any DBA tasks, because it actually does an awful lot of DBA administration for you. It can handle all of your data. So not only can it take in the normal relational data, but it can also take in things like XML, Avro, CSV, JSON, bring that information into the system as well. It can also provide a secure and governed solution for all of your users. So again, you can set up data rights, access, no matter where they are, they can get at the data. And because it's a cloud service, you can pay for what you use and when you need it. Then finally, it's got a really interesting idea called live data sharing. So this is where instead of having to do ETL jobs and load data to your partners or to your customers or suppliers, you can provide them secure, restricted access to your data that they can see and remove the need for ETL and data being out of date. They get the same live feed as you get, and all they need is a free Snowflake account. So Snowflake is really disrupting the industry. It's now growing really quickly. I think in the last month they received another 400 million in funding. It's got a 12 billion cap. it really is changing the market, changing how people are consuming data. And it also means now, because of the power of cloud data warehouses like Snowflake, it means we don't have to spend as much time designing data models, much time designing databases. Because of the power of the cloud, and because Snowflake has the ability to scale up to whatever you need, you can actually load in your data and then worry about doing the transformation later on. And that's where we talk about ELT, extract, load, and transform. And our solution this morning, Stitch, is in essence an ELT platform. It allows you to extract the data, load it up into something like Snowflake, and then you can do your analytics and your transformation later. But your time to insight is drastically cut because Snowflake has the capability to scale. You don't have to spend a lot of time massaging data. You can use Stitch to load that information in. Our analytics platform and our BI platform is Sisense. And with Sisense, it provides power to the builders. And what do we mean by that? Well, we mean that it provides, no matter what user you are, that the people who are building the analytics are getting the tools to do their job. They're getting the tools to be self-service, to be able to build the analytics that they need, whether it's a data scientist, a business analyst, no matter who the user is, that they have the power to do what they want. And there's 3 products in there. We've got Cloud Data Teams, which is designed, again, fits nicely with the Stitch product we're going to show you this morning, but it's for developers. So people like Aditya here, who likes to run things in SQL and Python, who doesn't like to use a GUI, and wants to do quick analytics and create charts from SQL. So Cloud Data Teams is perfect for that. You may have been aware, but previously it was called Periscope. So it was a Sisense acquisition in the last 2 years. Sisense then have their standard enterprise BI system, which is BI and analytics teams. And in it, you've got your standard dashboards and ability to drill into information. And it's really, really getting very powerful. We're now seeing a lot more AI capabilities being put into the product. And we're also seeing the ability to do predictive analytics so that you can do predictive forecasting, predictive maintenance, all this kind of stuff as well. And one of the big key points of Sisense is it provides an API-first platform. So with that, Sisense will release Sisense product teams. And that's where companies who are developing software products or analytic products can embed Sisense and white label the software in their product lines. And an example of that has been NASDAQ. NASDAQ, who built their own software for stock exchanges and gaming markets, were able to embed Sisense into their products and actually white label it as NASDAQ and not as Sisense. So Sisense is a really interesting platform that provides the BI capabilities we're going to talk about. And I'll come back to Cloud Data for Teams at the end of the presentation. So this morning, we're going to focus more on our data management, data integration products, and specifically our Talend platform. So with Talend, the Talend Data Fabric delivers trusted data at speed. So we talked this morning about being able to cut down that cost, time to insight. So with Talend, it can help your data engineers and integration specialists collect the data, build governance against that information, transform the data, and then share it through APIs. And it supports both multi-cloud, hybrid, and on-premise architecture. So no matter where your data is, Talend can do it and then provide trusted insights and experience to the end users. Talend Data Fabric has a suite of apps for data integration and integrity. So the one we're going to talk this morning is Stitch Data Loader. So it's the ELT platform, if we want to call it. But they've also now released Pipeline Designer. So Aditya, I think, did a demo on this, a webinar on this recently.
Yeah, definitely we had one. So
yeah, so if you want more information about Pipeline Designer, which again allows you to create these data pipelines that allows you to consume information, get the information out there fast, and do some early data prep now with a new version coming out this quarter, where you can actually do data prep and ingestion with Designer. But and then also on the collection, we have the old data integration and big data integration platform, or Talend Studio, as we would call it. When it gets into the governance side, we have Talend Data Quality, which allows you to profile the quality of your data. Data Catalog allows you to create the metadata against your information and show full version and information and lineage of your data, so that when you are running analytics and maybe there are some issues, you can drill down into the information to figure out where they're coming from. And data stewardship and data preparation, they provide the ability from stewardship to provide self-serve so people can actually update, curate, and correct information. And data preparation allows analysts to actually do some data preparation and self-service and preparation of data before they do their BI. From the transformation, again, you can still use Pipeline Designer, Studio, and Data Prep. And then when it does come to sharing that data, we have API services, API Designer and Tester, where you can create the APIs. And as you can see, this is a unified environment with very strong native performance, so you can run your code in SQL or Java or Hadoop, in Spark, sorry, in Hadoop, and you can have, it's pervasive data quality the whole way through, and we drive self-service. So again, getting rid of the shadowed IT, being able to have that the people who need the information can get at it in a governed way. So with Talend, we can do data integration and start anywhere with Talend. So this morning we're going to talk about Stitch Data Loader, and it allows you to ingest quickly, replicate it, and it's cloud native, so it runs very perfect for cloud-to-cloud integrations. Pipeline Designer is a lightweight data integration, web-based client, perfect for batch and streaming. And Studio itself is data engineer ready, advanced data integration, data quality, and it has the full data quality. And you can see with Studio, you can get some very complex integrations, and it can be used by really, everybody from data engineers to data science. With Stitch Data Loader, it means analysts can get the data into their data warehouse very quick, but the integration is naturally very simple. So we can see why we can work with these products. So with Talend Cloud, the big thing is you get failover and disaster recovery. So these products run in the cloud. It supports a full CI/CD software development lifecycle, so it integrates with GitHub and things like this for you, make sure you've got proper version management. And it enables you to have automatic upgrades of integration functionality and avoids obsolescence. So again, it just cuts down that infrastructure overhead and IT overhead. Now, Stitch Data Loader itself, Stitch Data Loader lets you get your data where you need it in just a few clicks. It's an intuitive cloud-native data ingestion, so again, cloud-to-cloud ideally, but it quickly enables the analytics with data at your fingertips and automatically scales for seamless data movement. So again, when you are populating something like Snowflake and you have your data in Salesforce or in Mercato or whatever format, you want to bring that data in there so you can start doing your BI. Stitch is the perfect, quick way to get started, to get your data warehouse built and get doing some analytics. With Stitch Data Loader, there's over 100 data sources supported. So yeah, Salesforce, PostgreSQL here, Google Analytics, Shopify. It has some advanced configuration options, and then it lets you do rapid replication of data warehouses. So we're going to show Snowflake this morning, but again, that could be Google BigQuery, it could be Amazon Redshift, it could be Azure, whatever cloud data warehouses you want to write to. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Aditya, who's going to give a demonstration of the software.
Thanks, Karen. So as you see, Karen mentioning about data analysts and data engineers working with Talend in different capacities. Now, since Karen is busy and what he wants me to do is to be a data analyst and ingest data quickly, not to go through cumbersome ETL way where I get the data and put an ETL tool and then get the data into destination. So what he has asked me, that he has given me a cloud database, which is Snowflake that we are using. And what he wants is that he wants to get source data quickly and into the data warehouse. So basically now he may wants to treat it as a data lake or data warehouse with the raw data, and as per use basis, he'll then use the data rather than having every data which is coming in has to be a transformed one and in a relational format. So that's what the ask is. So let's log in. So I'll first log into my Snowflake data warehouse or database. So if you can see here, what you have is I'll create an empty database, and then we'll see how we can get data from my source system. So basically, the source that I'm working is a Jira Service Desk. Now it's a cloud-based platform provided by Atlassian, and what we have is a service desk where every customer who might have a query or who might have any issues, they go there and log in issues, and they basically those issues come to us via service desk. Now the idea is to get all the legacy data or the recent data into data warehouse, or we call it a data lake, and then we'll have the data in native format and raw format in database. Now, so what I'll do is, if I would have went through a traditional ETL way, so I would first define a database. And then I'll create a schema. What we'll have then, what I would need next is like the tables, and then the schema, and data types, and basically the type of data that's coming in from source. So I need to have everything in place before I can kind of migrate the data into database. But we'll see like how easier it can get with the help of Stitch data, that you really don't have to define pretty much of metadata at the database side, and even at the source side you can just start to get working. So I'll start with creating a database. So I'm calling it an Atlassian database. So there's a name of my database, which will be basically storing data from Stitch data. I'm just giving a reference that it stores issues. So now our database is kind of created. So if I can go back and can show you, so we have a database, and these are the two schemas that basically gets created by default. One is information schema and the public schema. So that's all we have. Now what we want is, we want to get data from our Jira into this Atlassian database. So what I'll do is, I'll quickly log into my Stitch data account. So if I sign in, the first thing you see is your integrations, and then you have destination tab and notifications. So what integrations are basically the sources from where you want to get data from. So I'll go and let's create an integration, and not only Jira, but then there are almost 100 sources that you can connect to. For example, if you want to get data from Facebook ads, or if you want to get data from Google Analytics or GitHub, so you can just go and connect to it using your credentials, and just replicate the data from source to destination. So let's search for our integration source. So I'll be selecting my Jira integration. Now I'll basically you have to you get advanced configuration options to set up your Jira account, and basically the define parameters based on which you want to replicate your data into destination. So let's give it a name. So I'm giving this integration name called Service Desk. Now the name that you give to your integration will be your schema. So basically this Service Desk schema will basically appear in my database, apart from information schema and public schema, once the data gets replicated. Moreover, you can also provide a different name to schema, but for simplicity, we'll just keep it as Service Desk. So now these are the basically Jira credentials that I'll be using to kind of connect to connect to my Jira account. And then the option that you get is, you get an option to kind of sync historical data. So by default, what Stitch does is, once you connect to a source, it gives you the data till this date, since for a year. But then you can also kind of configure it. So let's change it. So let's change it. Say that I just want data for a month. So I've selected the start date to be 3rd of February. So whatever data or whatever the issues that were created in Service Desk from 3rd of February, we want to get it in our Snowflake database. I selected it. Then you can also get an option to choose the replication frequency as to how often you want to replicate data from your source. Now you can see that there are different times that you can select, but not only that, you can select an anchor time, for example, based on your UTC or based on the time zone that you are in. You can define when you want to define the time when you want to replicate. So let's see that. Let's keep it an hour. So basically every hour my integration should replicate the data.
And what happens if there's new data or old data? Is it truncating, or how is it? What's it bringing through on that replication every hour?
That's a very good question, Karen. So what it does is, so since I'm using a SaaS source, which is cloud-based, so Stitch automatically identifies a primary key from the source, and based on that, it will replicate. So by default, it works on incremental key-based replication. So if from 3rd of February, it will get all the data, since it's a new load, so it will get all the data from 3rd February. But meanwhile, if any record has been updated, so when the next run will happen, it will only replicate the updated record, not the one which has already been in the source. So that's what you call an upsert or change data capture.
So and that's done automatically. So instead of having to write an ETL process to actually go, compare change, find change, update. Actually, you, by setting up the application, which is running now, it'll constantly do that and just take the change data through for the system.
Definitely. That's what it does, and it kind of saves you a lot of time. So, but there are different replication methods as well that I'll kind of explain in brief as we go along. So now you have seen that I was kind of able to connect to my Jira Service Desk account, and now what Stitch already gave me are like these are the tables that it can replicate in destination, and the data that it's going to replicate. So I'll select my issues table. That basically this is the data that I want to replicate in destination. And not only that, you can also select the fields that you want to replicate in that source table basically. So let's select all the fields that we want to get all the fields from the issue data to be replicated in the destination. And I'll just quickly finalize my selection. One more thing, you might have seen that there was an ID key which was automatically selected. So basically Stitch automatically selects a primary key or the incremental key based on which it will replicate. If you are using a SaaS source, if you are using a database which is in your VPC, for example, Oracle or MySQL, then you have an additional option to kind of go and define your primary key, or that might be update date where your records getting updated. So based on that date, it will replicate.
Okay, very good.
So you can see that now our service desk has basically configured. Similarly, now we have configured a source. Similarly, you configured your destination. So I have already done configuration for my Snowflake database. So basically the host name and the database name that we just created. So basically this is the database we are kind of going to use. And so warehouse parameter is specific to Snowflake, where basically what I'm telling is that that I want to use this virtual warehouse or the compute cluster to kind of read the data and insert into the database. And if you can see that the destination connection has been successful. So that's all. So that's all we have to do, So I didn't go and create any schema or tables and columns. The basically Stitch data will be able to
extract and load it.
So now the integration is basically is done. So I'll just run a extract now. So since it was kind of we have configured it to extract every hour, so it was kind of scheduled, but then you can go and if you want a manual extraction and load, you can also do it. So that's what I have done here, and you can see that the it has started to write log. So basically what it's doing is it kind of extracting your data, and then it uses Amazon S3 bucket, internal bucket, where it can basically save your replication log for 7 days, and then from there it picks up the data and puts it into the data warehouse, creating the tables, creating the columns and everything on its own. Now the good advantage of I'll just go back to my service page and see where we are now. So if I go back to my extractions, you can see that okay, so the extraction is still working. What I'll do is I'll just refresh it to see the summary. So yeah, so what you can see that now it has received 72 rows from service desk, and it will now being loaded into the database.
Is that our service desk? Is this what we use for our help desk?
Yes, that's our service desk, and from 3rd of February we have 72 issues, new records. So
okay.
I think something is going on there.
We have a lot of customers.
I'd assume so. So now you can see that the extraction is working. So yes. So and it takes a bit of time. Basically, once it gets the data into Amazon S3 bucket, and from there it goes into the destination. So meanwhile, we'll go back to our destination and see if it has written anything in here. So you can see that the database that we created just had 2 schemas. As of now, it still has 2 schemas. So that means the Stitch is working in the background to get things moving. The other aspect that I want to discuss, meanwhile, this basically integration is being working, is that you get 3 replication methods. Basically the first one is the log-based incremental application method, where, for example, certain databases like MySQL and Oracle, they have decent amount of logs where every insert update will have an entry in the log. So based on that, if your database is configured for to have logs, then Stitch can read those logs, and based on that it can identify which rows has been updated, which rows needs to be replicated. So that's one way of replication, one method of replication. The other one which we are using is key-based incremental application, where based on a key it kind of gets the data into destination, and then then Stitch stores that key, and then next time when it kind of runs the integration, it will select the key which is greater than or equal to that key. So more often that would be your update timestamp or primary key that you can use. The other method, the third alternative, is full table replication. Now there are certain situations where you won't find a key or a primary key which you can use to identify a resource. It might be just a raw system data that's coming in, and it's not possible to have a primary key. So in that case, you can also use a full table application where it just creates whole new table and the data. So let's go back and see if it where we are. So you can see that it's still being loaded. So now, since I'm just using a standard trial plan, so I'm not using the enterprise version of Stitch. So there might be contention, and it sometimes takes times to get data loaded into the destination. So if I just refresh it and see if it has got the data into the.
And if anybody if you have your Snowflake up there with Idia, we do have a webinar on our website where we go through the whole features of Snowflake. So if you go to our webpage and look up Snowflake on it, you'll see Idia has done a previous webinar where we've built data warehouse, where we've used Snowflake to cache queries, where we use the whole t-shirt size piece of Snowflake. Again, you're probably running on a small t-shirt, are you, for the
Yes, I am. Yes, I'm running the smallest size. So even that kind of makes a difference, because the compute cluster, the computing resource that I have provided can sometimes take time to get provision, and then
So again, if anyone is interested in Snowflake, which really is an excellent product, you can see that whole webinar on our webpage, as well as there's also previous webinars on Talend as well.
So meanwhile, it's still kind of it's still in the loading phase. But then meanwhile, what I can show you is I did run a integration this morning, the previous one. So these are the kind of saviors for the live demo sometimes in the cloud. So what I have is, if you can see this backup, that was basically I just created like just 15 minutes before the start of the webinar, where I ran everything. And so you can see that if this integration once this extraction would be completed, if I can see whether it has loaded or not, just for the last time. No, so it's still loading.
Let's see how.
Or maybe I'll just so it's still loading. But then
There's one you
diagram
prepared earlier,
that I created earlier. So you can see that the information, apart from information and public schema, what we have now a service desk.
Yeah.
So now this service desk is the same integration that we created. So basically this is the schema name, and inside of it, if I just click on the schema, so what I have is the issues table. So remember, I clicked on issues table, or basically issues data to replicate into destination. So you can also see that apart from the data, you also get some system generated tables from Stitch data. So this one is SDC rejected. So if any record which Stitch was unable to kind of load into a destination database, basically you can get an entry here, and you can identify what the issue is, then you can go back and rectify. So I'll basically use this data, this backup table to kind of just review the data that I loaded this morning. So you can see here that these are the fields that Stitch was able to extract from my Jira Service Cloud account and get replicated into destination. Now the interesting thing is that I didn't have to worry about my service desk application on cloud, because I didn't have to worry that the service desk uses a PostgreSQL or Postgres database, and the data that I might get would be in JSON format, because to access your data on Jira Service Desk Cloud, they provide you with APIs, so only through APIs you can get the data. So then I didn't have to go and go through their API documentation and configure it, and then run the API and to get the data, and then based on that create schema in my destination Snowflake. Also, if you can see here that Stitch has automatically created schema, and the interesting thing is that the variant data type, which is native to Snowflake, it usually used to store the hierarchical data, or the data where you have nested data. For example, if you might have JSON, XML, or Avro data. So these are nested data sets. So basically, Stitch has basically identified those records and have created a column called fields in destination, and it has replicated them in their native format. So if I can show you this field, so basically, So this is the JSON string that that got returned from Service Desk, and I got it in native format. So, and not only that, if your destination doesn't support nested structures or hierarchical data, so Stitch automatically kind of flattens them and create columns for them, and then stores that. So it kind of gives you the flexibility, and plus you have your data in native format, in raw format.
So in Snowflake we can query those nested data, but if you aren't using Snowflake and you're using a cloud data warehouse, didn't have that function, Stitch will actually know that and go, okay, create extra columns.
Definitely, and then you. So as you said, so basically this is. So I am basically reading the fields column, since it's nested. So you get a lot of functions in Snowflake to kind of read it natively as like a small like a native relational column. So you are right. I mean, Stitch identifies it, and otherwise will give you a flatten out columns that you can readily work on. And this was the basically the API that you might have to call if you don't use Stitch. So this is the data that you get from basically your service desk or Jira Cloud if you have to get the data.
So if we were using an old ETL solution, we would just call that API, and then start putting in loads of breaks and commands to split data up,
split everything up, and then do it. But with basically help of Stitch, you just don't have to worry about everything. You can just start quickly and get your data into database. So luckily now, since now our data has basically loaded, so sometimes it takes time since I'm using a cloud version, standard version. So there are resource contention and everything that goes behind the. So if I can go back to my Atlassian Cloud, so you can see that now we have got the data base, and we also have schema and the tables, the recently updated one. So I think that's all, like the basics of Stitch, and how you can quickly start working on using Stitch. So, yeah.
And thanks, Lydia. That's great. And literally what we've shown there this morning, you can actually go online to Stitch Cloud, Stitch Data Team, Stitch, the Stitch website, and you can actually trial Stitch for 15 days. So you can try it yourself if you have cloud data and want to get into a cloud data warehouse. And again, similarly with Snowflake, you can actually start up a trial for 2 weeks. So you can actually trial everything here we're seeing today. And then if you are interested in Stitch or Snowflake, you can come to ourselves and we can take you from the trial into production. One thing just to finish off our cloud story is that we also have Sisense Cloud Data for Teams, which is the perfect next step BI tool once your Stitch data is loaded. So in it, though, it is designed for developers. So its key principles are analytics as code. So you're not using a GUI. So again, Aditya will be happy. He can write his code and create its analytics. It allows you to connect to your business data and create advanced data pipelines and do statistical and predictive analysis. So for those who may have heard of it before, it was previously known as Periscope, now part of the Sisense family, and it's a perfect add-on and has been used in a lot of customers where Cloud, Stitch and Periscope have been used together, but now they've come together under the Talend and Sisense brands. And if you are interested in more of what Talend, Sisense, Snowflake, and our complete data intelligence platform, we're running an event in the Morrison Hotel on the 23rd of April. It's free to attend. There's lunch included. I think there's some nice goodies going to be there, Tanya, on the day. So it's a really good event. We're hoping to have representatives from Talend and Sisense, maybe even some customer speaking as well. So it should be really good, and you'll see the whole roadmap and what we're doing. And actually, we'll be joining this again, doing more of the systems working together. We'll be showing how we can do data prep and data stewardship in Talend and visualizing that data in Sisense, and it all in the Snowflake data warehouse. So in summary, we're just not too far off time. Stitch Data Loader provides a fast ELT solution for cloud-to-cloud integrations. It drastically reduces time to insight and standard ETL costs. So again, remember at the start of the session, we were talking about not having data available. By having the data in Snowflake, you're making it available to everyone in the organization. You have no barriers. And because the whole platform is based on the cloud, it removes any need for any infrastructure overhead or any delays in putting in place any infrastructure. Tanya, have we time for questions? Is there anything else left to come in?
Yeah, we've one question here that's just come in. Can it connect to a database inside a VPC?
So, Kevin, can I?
Oh yeah, you go ahead. Yeah, definitely.
So I mean, yeah, it depends. Like if your source is database, so basically, if the source is your database, then you can. But then you need to make your database public. So you can do it using SSH tunnel and SSH server thing. And basically, Stitch Data supports SSL and TCP connection, so you can do it that way. Or if you have cloud native data warehouse, then no need to worry. Like you can basically easily connect.
And VPC is private cloud?
VPC, yes, I guess so. So basically you need to provide certain non-restricted access to Stitch Data IPs.
Yes.
And then if you can provide it, or basically your cloud data warehouse provider kind of allows you to have an access to those endpoints, then definitely you can connect. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Okay, well I think we're just about coming up to the end. Thank you for your time this morning, everybody who's joined us. If you have any more questions, please come to our website, please let us know. We'd be happy to talk to you more about everything you showed this morning, but also the rest of the data intelligence platform. And of course, hopefully you may be able to come on the 23rd and we'll see you in person. Thanks to the team, Tanya, who's been managing everything, and Aditya, who did all the hard work. And we'll talk to you again next month. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.